and welcome everyone back to Truth, Lies and Hair Ties. Basically, if you have an interest in animals and you like hair, then you might enjoy this channel. So today we are going to be talking about sea shepherd. And before I get into it, I'll just tell you what I'm going to do for my hair. I'm basically going to be creating a large Dutch braid, but it's going to be coming right over here, and then we're going to pull out the sides to make it kind of like a loose hairstyle. So you're just going to need one large hair tie, and that's pretty much it. So yes, I found out about them probably last year, but actually most people now know about them because of Seaspiracy, that documentary that I spoke about last time. Because they actually, I think they're only in for about 10 minutes or so. It did explain a little bit about what they do. So it was actually put together in 1977, and the founder is a man called Paul Watson, and it was called Earth Force Society, but it was in 1981 that it was incorporated. And many people call them the pirates of the sea, or as some of the Japanese whalers call them, eco-terrorists. Yes, so on one hand they do a lot of good, but on the other hand people are questioning, are their tactics doing more harm than good? So that's basically what we're going to talk about today. So what's their job? Well, they basically prowl the seas searching for illegal fishing vessels, but they also protect the marine life as well. A couple of videos where there might be a few animals that are tangled in ghost gear. So yes, they do quite a lot of good. But I first thought, okay, let's go right back to the beginning. Who owns the sea? So I found a little video on YouTube that just explains it as simply as you possibly can, because actually it's quite a complex topic. But anyway, here we go. I'll show you the clip now.
System in use today is called the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. The way it works is by measuring out various areas very carefully from a defined baseline, which usually follows a country's coastline. Internal waters are all water and waterways on the landward side of the baseline, like bays, rivers, or lakes. The coastal state is free to set laws, regulate use, and use any resource. Foreign vessels have no right of passage within these waters. Territorial waters extend to 12 nautical miles. Within this area, a country is free to set laws, regulate use, and use any resource. Foreign vessels are allowed to pass through these waters, including military ships, so long as they conduct themselves peacefully and keep moving. No stopping to sightsee. Also, submarines must stay surfaced with a national flag flying. Fishing, polluting, weapons practice, and spying are not allowed. Exclusive economic zones, or EEZs, extend up to 200 nautical miles from the coast. In these waters, the nation has exclusive rights over all natural resources. That means everything from fishing to drilling for oil. The rest are international waters, which means everybody basically gets to do what they want. Creative diplomatic solutions must be found to determine EEZs when the 200-mile limit of one country overlaps with another, like the EEZs of the United States and Mexico, or Caribbean nations. Oftentimes, the boundaries between exclusive economic zones cannot be resolved, and conflicts can and do arise.
So obviously all these local ports or their bays are protected by like the Coast Guard or water police, but then once you're in international waters, who's patrolling it? Now there are obviously a few companies out there. There's also Greenpeace, but obviously they're just kind of there to look after the marine life, and again, if they've been trapped in any plastic, they'll set them free, maybe take them back to a conservation site and, you know, make sure they're okay to be released again. And actually, Paul Watson, he used to be a part of Greenpeace, but, well, some articles say that he was expelled and some articles say that he left. So I don't know if it was a bit of both, but he basically just didn't agree with their views. And I guess they were a little bit too peaceful. They weren't doing enough direct action to kind of make a difference, I guess. So what is it that Sea Shepherd actually do? Well, they document and report illegal fishing and violation of conservation laws. And they can actually board a ship, have a look around, you know, see what they're doing. And if obviously it's illegal, whatever, they can actually make a citizen's arrest. So this can be if they don't have a fishing license, or they're fishing in a marine protected area, or it could be perhaps they're saying that they're a tuna boat, but once they're on board, they can tell that they're only catching sharks. They say they implement direct but non-lethal tactics. Okay, so when they come across an illegal fishing boat, and let's say it's not leaving the area, it's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, maybe it's getting too close to the boat, or it's acting dangerously, what does Sea Shepherd do to deter this type of behaviour? Well, they actually throw acid. Now, I know when you hear the word acid, you just think, oh my God, no, that sounds horrendous. But we do know that there are acids out there that actually, you know, they're safe, they're okay. And it's the same as this one. Now, I'm probably not going to pronounce it right. Butyric acid. And that's basically an acid that they extract from putrid butter. So as you can imagine, it is extremely foul smelling, to the point that it can actually make you throw up. So I guess the tactic to do that is kind of like, we're going to make your boat smell so bad that you physically cannot be on the deck working. And I guess they then have to take it into port and probably spend a couple of days cleaning it. And for Sea Shepherd, that's a bit of a win, because that's 2 days not fishing basically, or killing whales. But I did see in some of the videos, I might show one here, that these acid, they are in bottles, and I'm pretty sure they're in glass bottles. So yes, you can obviously try your hardest to get it away from a human, but I thought if that does actually hit someone, I think it would hurt. A little bit, and probably could cause some damage, because when they say we use non-lethal tactics, I mean, that basically means this won't kill you, but we can't guarantee you won't get injured from it, but we're just basically lowering the risk of that. And now some of the whalers have come back and said, oh my God, they're throwing battery acid at us and it's corroding our skin, which Sea Shepherd are obviously like, well, that's a complete load of nonsense. And I did look into it a bit more. I couldn't find any articles of like actual proof that this was true. You know, no whaling company was like, oh, I've got some photos of my men who, you know, yeah, has had a bad reaction from it or anything. So I guess that was just a, you know, a way of trying to paint them in a bad light. And of course the whalers, you know, they sort of fight back as well. They throw stones and rocks and bolts and concussion grenades, which I think they're also called like flash grenades, which basically means if you're anywhere near it, you know, you can become very disorientated. And I thought, oh yes, I think I'd prefer to be hit with rotten butter than by a flash grenade. So I think they've just perhaps just blown that out of proportion a little bit more by saying that it's battery acid. And yeah, there have been some pretty hairy moments. In fact, most of the videos that I found on YouTube, and there are a lot, there are so many, that Sea Shepherd has, documented. But one of them, as I say, they're allowed to board the ship, but of course that's no easy task. So they're in like a smaller speedboat, maybe 4 or 5 of them. They pull up this fishing boat, which they're not just going to be like, oh, you're going to board, okay, no worries, we'll just kind of slow down and make sure that's nice and easy for them, because obviously they have these high-powered cannons, and these are water cannons. Sea Shepherd and all the big ships have these as well, but obviously that does make it more difficult for this little boat to get closer, and they've got to find that very small window where they've got to just kind of go for it. And there were 2 that were able to board the ship, and then there was a helicopter in the sky sort of documenting everything that was going on, and they were like, oh, okay, I can't remember their names, Bob and Larry, they've tied them to the side of the boat. And obviously everyone on Sea Shepherd were like, what? What's going on? So that was a bit of a hairy moment. But they did eventually let them go, and it was okay. But I guess you have to remember that these massive corporations are making so much money from this industry. Of course, they're not going to like it if people are now interfering. And then there was another time where they were racing after a Japanese boat, and it was huge. It was a little bit misty, and it was like in the movies, because suddenly out of the mist, these 4 smaller boats came out and started surrounding Sea Shepherd. And I mean surrounding as in they kept on circling around and around in order to sort of protect the mothership that was kind of getting away.
They're looking like they're going into a circle.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Maybe coming around, look at that. It was almost like a parade. One by one, the harpoon ships started coming up and doing very, very close circles around us. They had a plan for how to deal with us, and it was made very, very evident in their maneuvers.
And Sea Shepherd basically just had to wait for this one opportunity as one of the boats went past to quickly go through. But a lot of the videos, just as it gets to the exciting part, they kind of cut it off, so you don't actually see what happens. You're like, that's the most important part. We wanted to find out what happened after. But, well, hopefully it was all okay. I don't know. But I'll just show you a video of, bits of damage and things that have happened whilst they were out at sea.
I warn you, stop all obstructive actions immediately. Keep away from the steamer. This is Japan Coast Guard officer on board the steamer. I warn you, stop all obstructive actions immediately. Keep away from the steamer.
So I guess it's a bit like bumper cars for grown-ups, except if you go overboard, you'll probably freeze to death in about 10 minutes. So probably not so fun. In 1994, they went after an illegal Norwegian whaling vessel, and Sea Shepherd actually sunk that vessel. But they weren't arrested or charged or anything, because apparently there was a lot more dodgy stuff going on that boat than they first thought. Then apparently in 1993, there was actually a letter that was sent to the people of Norway stating that Sea Shepherd have in actual fact sunk 8 ships and really damaged a further 6. But, let's hit on some of the good things that they do as well. They actually do team up with quite a few conservation groups to do like beach cleanups, and I've seen happen all over the world, and it's nice because you can see lots of sort of children getting involved as well, and just kind of, I guess just making sure all of these beaches and surrounding areas are nice and clean, and some of the pictures, I mean, they managed to pick up a hefty amount of, you know, plastic and ghost gear and all sorts of things. Oh, and I found this little article where they managed to get where a poor little turtle was stuck in a plastic bottle that they managed to get out, but not very nice. So yes, I think they do a lot of good, and I think their message is, it's kind of a little bit like those movies where justice isn't done and you have this vigilante or something who decides to take things into their own hands to, you know, see real change. And I feel that is what Sea Shepherd is all about, you know, perhaps just pushing the boundaries just a little bit to see, you know, exactly how far they can go in order to protect our oceans. You know, and there's part of me saying, well, maybe this is the only way. But then I guess there's another part going, well, yes, but I guess you've still got to make sure that you're not also crossing that line. You don't want to be as bad as what you're trying to protect, you know, as bad as those people, you know, which I mean, I can't see them on the same level, but, you know, do you fight fire with fire? That's, I guess, the debate here, because I did find a few more articles, and there was this one that I found about a Mexican fisherman who actually died. But apparently Sea Shepherd were basically trying to leave. I don't know if they must have been inside a port. They were just trying to leave. And then this apparently little boat came right in front, and the Sea Shepherd vessel basically chopped it in half. And one man died, another was seriously injured. Apparently the people on the Sea Shepherd boat, though, they did get off and they did, you know, help them and try and, you know, give them first aid. But yeah, unfortunately didn't quite work for one of them. But you see, then this Mexican man, his family have come back and said, no, Sea Shepherd rammed straight into them. So yeah, you've got two different stories there, but I'm thinking, well, I think they would say that, wouldn't they? There's no way you'd want to say, oh, my son or husband or whatever purposely rammed another vessel that was probably a lot larger. And then I thought, oh, let's have a look a bit more into the history of Sea Shepherd, and one sort of long kind of letter came up, and it just said the violent history of Sea Shepherd. And I thought, well, I've got to read some of these. So yeah, these are quite interesting. Obviously I won't go through all of them because there's quite a lot, but we'll start in 1980. So here it said, a Sea Shepherd vessel rams the whaling vessel Sierra, I think that's how you say it, causing considerable damage. Sierra survives the attack. And then I did look up a little bit more about what happened, and Paul Watson was actually ordered into prison for 10 days for violating the sea hunt. Basically, they weren't supposed to approach this hunt because they hadn't been given permission from the government. And then we've got another one here. In 1981, Sea Shepherd claims responsibility for the sinking of the two whaling vessels, Ibsa 1 and Ibsa 2, in the Spanish harbour of Vigar, or Vigar, however you'd like to say it. And then a little bit further on, we will go to 1997. Paul Watson arrested at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, Netherlands, for attempted scuttling of the Norwegian combined whaling and fishing vessel Nebrena. He was arrested by the Dutch police after Interpol issues warrant. He then serves 80 days in prison in the Netherlands. Yeah, this actually only goes up to 2002, but I'm sure there's quite a few other things that have happened since then. So Sea Shepherd currently have 12 vessels, which I think is quite a lot. And I wanted to look into how did they manage to fund all of this? Because, you know, each ship probably isn't particularly cheap. And it was actually from the help of the Dutch, I think it was the postcode lottery, and they got 2.2 million. Yeah. But even then I thought, each boat though, I mean, gosh, they must still cost quite a lot, especially if they now have 12. And then they were given a further 8.3 million euros from this postcode lottery, which apparently is the largest donation that they've ever made. So if you look into it and you think, yes, I think they are, you know, fighting for a good cause and actually doing something, you may want to get involved or at least support and help them. So they do actually have a clothing line. You can get t-shirts or hoodies, and they are used with organic cotton. They are also used with water-based inks, and they are produced in India's first green factory. And of course, all the proceeds go directly to Sea Shepherd. And they also work in partnerships with a few different companies. One of them is Dr. Bronner's. I've actually seen these soaps in quite a few shops. And another company called Bubble Buddy, which I haven't heard of before, but they were selling soap dishes that were made from recycled plastic. They were quite expensive. I think they were about £20. But hey, for a good cause, then it's worth it. I'm definitely looking into getting maybe one of their hoodies or t-shirts, just because I do love their logo. You know, it has got that pirate feel about it. They're sort of, I'd say it's their main logo with the skull on top. It does look pretty cool. You can then also obviously go onto their website, which is seashepherd.org. And then I think if you scroll about halfway down, it will show you how you can donate. And there's quite a few different ways that you can do that as well. I think you can do it through PayPal. They also have like gift memberships and all sorts of other things. Or you might feel maybe that's not enough. You want to do something more. Well, you can volunteer. So when you watch some of the videos that I'll post below, most of the crew, you know, they are kind of engineers, nurses, professional cooks. You know, you have got a lot of professional people there in order to sort of make sure the boat or vessel, you know, keeps running. But then you have a lot of other people who don't have any experience of being on a boat at all. And those are also volunteers. So you can definitely go online. You can basically just type in volunteer at Sea Shepherd Global, and it will come up. I think there's like an eligibility form that you can fill in, and they'll be able to let you know if you're able to carry on with your application. So yeah, mainly you can be a deckhand, but you will have to set aside at least 3 months, because I think the first month is basically just training. In fact, I'm not even sure the boat goes out. I think you're just in port, just learning the ropes, mind the pun. And then there was an interview that I saw Paul Watson. He said, look, just if you do want to volunteer, you know, you have to be willing to give your life for the oceans. Because, you know, especially if you do watch these videos and you're like, oh, that was a bit scary, okay. You know, and I'm sure with all of these things that are thrown from other whalers, you know, that people have been hurt, you know, and you know, this sort of stuff can happen. So unless you're willing to do that, it might not be for you. Because you do have this romantic notion of, you know, yes, I'm going to be out there in the ocean, I'm going to be helping all these beautiful whales and marine life and all that sort of thing. But when you get down to the nitty-gritty part, it's not quite as glamorous as that. I mean, I wouldn't mind doing all the hard work and everything. That's just something that you would just get stuck into. You would just absolutely own it, because as Paul Watson said, you know, they're not professionals, they're not getting paid, so you are there because you want to be. And those people have the passion. But obviously it's the other part that's a bit scary, you know, like having a rock thrown at you, or, you know, possibly a massive ship ramming into your boat and leaving a gaping hole, which did happen. So yes, it's you. I guess you have got to sort of think it through a lot before you sort of decide on anything. I think to sum it up, I think they're doing a great job, to be honest. Yes, there are a few things that are quite questionable, and I'm not sure how many times Paul Watson has been in jail, but I mean, it's the same as Rico Barry, isn't it? He stood up for what he believed in, and he's been arrested a lot. And, you know, in order to get things done, then maybe you need to have a little bit of direct action. But again, that's, you know, that is a conversation that's very, oh yeah, but then they do this, and oh yeah, but then what about this? So it's difficult, but you know, I can't really poo-poo the fact that someone's out there fighting for our oceans. You know, I mean, you can't really turn that down, can you, and say, oh yes, but they're doing all this really bad stuff, when we don't have the balls to go out and do it ourselves. You know, as I said, there's a massive part of me that's like, oh yes, I think it would be amazing. And then you just think, yeah, but yeah, you do have to be willing to give your life for something like that. You might be the one. You could be the one. So get in touch, ask them, ask lots of questions, and watch lots of videos, because there are quite a few who've been volunteering. Some are out there for 4 months. Some do it 3 or 4 months every year. You know, they put aside that amount of time in order to go and help. And it was interesting because they were talking about 2020. Obviously, that was a little bit difficult, but they were still out there. They were still fighting.
Working together with the government of Gabon, we were able to assist the Gabonese authorities to arrest 2 Chinese-flagged trawlers for the crime of possessing over 1 ton of rays and ray fins. Last year, in its first steps to establishing Africa's first shark sanctuary, Gabon outlawed the finning of sharks, rays, and skates. The arrest of these 2 trawlers is the first enforcement of these new strengthened enforcement measures. Despite the pandemic, Sea Shepherd's been able to maintain its relationships with our African partners in Gabon, Benin, Liberia, and the Gambia.
I guess it's keep up the good work, Sea Shepherd, and try not to get into too much trouble. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you next time.